record right here. Oh my goodness, I got the power couple here with me. I'm so excited. All right, just so excited. What's up, everyone? This is Courtney Rollins from Life and Transitions Experts Podcast. As you heard in the intro, if you listen to this on podcast, or maybe you're watching this live, I'll let you know now. This is the place where we go, where we talk to folks who are dedicated to helping people prepare for life's biggest changes and challenges, as well as navigate and create the life they want through, oftentimes through entrepreneurship and small business, and definitely a focus in real estate investing. And I'm so excited to have this dynamic couple out of Charlotte, North Carolina, to hear their story. Nicholas Sullivan and Yamira Sullivan. Yamira, now I gotta. Yeah. Did I say it right this time?
Yamira.
I knew I was gonna have a conflict after I got it the first time. Yamira is a beautiful name. I apologize, but okay. Thank you all for being here. What is going on? How are you both doing? How you doing, Yamira?
Doing great. Happy holidays to everyone. Hope everyone's having a good, safe holiday so far.
Yes, sir. And I have to have a disclaimer. Nick is a great friend of mine. We both have the privilege of being a part of the same chapter of the mighty Psi Delta chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. So it's always good to chat with you. And how you doing, brother? How's everyone, Nick?
I'm good, man. I'm sitting in the in-laws' house right now. So hopefully we don't get too loud or say something they don't like. But either way, man, happy to be here. Amazing holiday season we were having up here in New Jersey. Got on my Tar Heel shirt tonight. Hopefully we can take Oregon out in the bowl game tonight. So feeling real good. Thanks for having us, Courtney.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully we'll keep you in safe keepings with the in-laws and all. Hey man, Carolina, Oregon. I don't know who will win the fashion battle, because Oregon got Nike gear up and down, and we look good, Tar Heels.
Yeah.
So, hopefully we come away with something really nice. But I'm gonna go ahead and jump in. I would love to for folks to hear your background, hear your story. If you've seen this out, I did I guess market or frame this as you all being short-term rental experts, but I know there is more to your story, and I would love for both of you or just jump in. So how did you get started into short-term rental? How did that come about? Tell us more, please.
I'll let you kick it off.
Sure.
You're the visionary.
All right. So first of all, Courtney, again, thanks for having us. We love talking about real estate. We love learning from other people. We love telling our story. And we love the fact that entrepreneurship is a game that anybody can play. And for us, it started back in 2016. We are super fortunate in Charlotte to have a house that has a detached garage. And when we purchased the house, the garage, the second floor was unfinished, just 4 walls, right? So you can imagine just the framing, no sheetrock, no electrical wiring, definitely no plumbing, literally just 4 walls. And as we started to think about, how we put that space to use, it was really at the peak of Airbnb before Airbnb's IPO. So they were still a young, scrappy, very Silicon Valley kind of tech-forward company that was really, really leading the game from a disruption standpoint. And so we thought, how great would it be if we took this space and built a vision around an Airbnb property, just for the sake of having something to do, to be honest with you. And that really kicked off our journey. From there, we have acquired a couple of other properties, some of which are Airbnb, some of which are long-term rentals. We have a property that is under renovation right now that we're still trying to understand and figure out what approach we want to take. It's a 4-unit property that gives us a flexibility of doing both Airbnb and long-term rental, should we decide to do that, or all Airbnb or all long-term rental. So we still have some thinking to do there, but that's in a nutshell our story. And I'll let my wife tell her version of it, or cover anything I might have missed.
No, I think we were lucky with the location that we have for our home. That detached garage is 5 minutes from uptown Charlotte. It's 15 minutes from the airport. It was just a recipe for success, and seeing how quickly we were able to reap the benefits of that small change really was like, it lit the fire for us. It was the addiction, the start of the addiction in real estate, and the realization that we could do this to supplement our income and to eventually move out of working our W-2 jobs into something larger.
So y'all just woke up and was like, oh man, we're blessed to have this. We keep hearing about this Airbnb or this short-term rental space. Hey, let's look at this space over here. Just why not do it?
Yeah.
Nick is a dreamer. He is an idea man. He probably has invented 75 different things, you know, so he just in his head. So he throws the idea out. I'm the realist. So I'm the one who has to check the numbers, make sure it makes financial sense. I'm more risk averse. So we have that good balance where he's able to see things that I may not see right away. But I help to kind of frame it in a way that makes it a little bit more of a safe investment.
And I think, and I think just one more thing, and we'll probably get further into this later in the conversation, but Courtney, I know you're a huge Bigger Pockets, person. We talked a lot about the concept of house hacking and felt like this garage gave us an opportunity to put that concept into play. And so we house hacked our way into real estate, to use a technical term, so to speak.
So house hacking, folks, if you may not be aware of it, is an amazing, powerful tool. It's basically when you live in a property and you somehow turn it into an asset by having people, live with you with the rooms, or if you're fortunate enough, as they did, to have a, different section. And it can be very powerful because, particularly if you're buying properties in the traditional route and you're using your name, you can get very, very favorable terms. And then if you just follow the proper stipulations, you get these properties at low rate, good debt, and you're able to, put someone there in cash flow, which is what these folks just did, which is, I think, completely awesome. It's pretty cool too to hear your story as far as Nick, you having a vision, these ideas, and Yamira having like the ability to say, okay, what are the things that are going to be in the way. It sounds like visionary and integrated. It almost sounds like the classic rocket fuel. I forget I probably have it, Dan Kennedy or somebody, rocket fuel. Have you heard of that?
I have, yeah.
So exactly, you got the visionary and the integrator. We need both, right? We need somebody being able to see it and work from the end, but also someone with the feet on the ground to make sure it's connected to the earth. That's cool that y'all had that. Y'all
we're lucky.
I don't know. There's a couple of directions I could go in, but I want to go ahead and ask about that. How does that work? I mean, real talk. I was in a relationship that started off, and bless her heart, she's an awesome person. We didn't necessarily work out. I was and still am like the visionary, and she did serve as the buffer. And sometimes I'm like, wow. If it wasn't for her, I would have never gotten started. If it wasn't for her, I would have never gotten started. I was, both of them. But so how does that work as far as being a married couple and doing this thing?
I'll be honest, it took some time for me. I'm, like I said earlier, I'm risk averse. So, I've been so conditioned to, my parents immigrated to this country. I wanted to work hard, make money, be successful in the traditional sense. So the idea of taking my money and investing it in something that has, although real estate is pretty safe, it's still a risk. That took some time. That took a lot of conversations between the two of us. And then when we finally did the Airbnb and I started to see the benefits, it took down those walls. It took down some of that fear for me. And we've been able to create some strategies and routines. I have my checklists, I have my spreadsheets, I have my, my things that I go through to make me feel better as we move forward in decision making, and make sure that we're setting ourselves up for success.
Yeah, I think the way I would say it is, I think we have been forced to get really, really objective. Like we can't let our emotions and our dynamic as a couple get in the way of decisions that have ramifications beyond our relationship, right? Yeah. Real, credit, real, financial, real, time, right? Like real estate is a very time sensitive and time demanding business. And so we start to ask ourselves questions about, is this idea or an opportunity something that makes sense for us outside of the realm of our relationship? You know, are there returns on the investment that makes sense? What type of, you know, renovations and what type of sweat equity are we going to have to put into to get the property to the vision and the dreaming state that I have in my head? Right. And if we can't answer those questions with confidence, or if I can't answer those questions with confidence, right, we don't move forward. And there's way more opportunities and way more deals, I would say, that we passed up on because, you know, the fuel kind of ran out and the idea broke down along the way. So as long as we can be objective and give each other feedback and not take it personally, and, you know, in the realm of our relationship, we do pretty well. Now, again, it took us a while to get there.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we're people. We're, at the end of the day, we're individuals coming together and working towards something. I think we're fortunate enough to have our baseline friendship and relationship that we can have those challenging moments and tough conversations with one another, and we move on. We both have the same end goal in mind, is, you know, to quit our jobs, live a life where we have financial stability, and ideally passive income to help us with the day-to-day, maintain our lifestyle, all of that. We both have that same goal in mind, and we both want to do it together. So it makes it easier for us to get through some of those challenges.
That is golden, because I mean, I don't know if where this proverb comes from, but you could have people sleeping in the same bed but having different dreams, and that could be very challenging, you know.
Yeah.
So you all having the same vision and dreams, I think it really helps. But I would still like to know, like, Nick, how did you, or how do you, or I mean, you did say, Yamira, that when you start seeing like some of the returns and some of the benefits that from it makes it a lot easier when the funds and flows.
Yeah, of course.
But there had to be a time beforehand where there was like, you know, you just have to rely on the vision and still put in the work in between there. So Nick, how did you help, I don't want to say convince, but show that, I don't even want to put words in your mouth. How did you assuage the challenges or objections that Yamira may have had initially?
I think
there's a lot of people out there who are the visionary in their family, need that other support to get this thing going. So how'd you do that? Give us some tips.
I would say two things. I would say I had to establish a trust quotient with her to say, listen, you know, this is something I'm passionate about. This is something I've done my research on. This is something I feel like is going to really change and influence how we live the rest of our lives. Give me a chance on this, you know, give me the runway to both succeed and fail. And the second thing was I brought her along on the journey, right? So I mentioned Bigger Pockets earlier. You know, I'm the kind of person, I'll listen to a podcast a day. I'll read several articles a day. I would send her those same articles and podcasts. I would talk about amazing stories that I've heard from people making their way through real estate, starting from the same place we were at. And I'm thinking to myself, if we are as connected, we're dreaming the same way, we're thinking about the same long-term lifestyle and structure we want for ourselves. If these people can do it, then what the heck, what's stopping us? You know, so I think being able to lean on and digest from other people's success stories and their failures, I think gave us the confidence to step in it together and make it happen. So a little bit of trust and a little bit of kind of, you know, co-piloting to say, listen, we're in this together. Let's figure out how we can use our skill sets, you know, as complementary features to making this thing work. And so, again, it was a very intense process. We argued a lot. We still argue a lot, if I'm being real, about, you know, the decisions we make, but it's all in an effort to get to the same endpoint because we're in this together. And so, we treat it as much of as a business as we do a part of what makes us unique as a couple.
Hey man, well, you gotta, I really appreciate that, because a healthy debate is important in any strong like organization, you know. Change is going to require if it's productive change, it's definitely going to require some type of discomfort, and having those real conversations is so important. There's two things. Well, one thing I heard in what you said, Nick, and you remember hearing your story, and there's one thing I want to pull out though. I heard that like having the vision laid out and having it shared, and sharing the articles, sharing the immersion that you went through, even though, I mean, it was at I'm assuming at the appropriate pace, but regardless, it also seemed like this wasn't just like you shared it one week and then you just put it on the shelf, I'm assuming, then, right? So I'm sure you saw, or you saw like, oh, there's commitment, there's dedication.
Yes, this was months and months of research and discussions and books and podcasts and sharing all of this knowledge to get me on board. I started getting excited hearing the stories. I started, feeling like, oh, wow, like maybe we can do this. Maybe I have been thinking about this the wrong way, and there's another way to get to the end goal for us.
And I hope people, I'm sorry.
No, yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying, I hope people are hearing this, because enthusiasm is contagious. Enthusiasm is the key for out here somewhere, but enthusiasm is contagious. And it can be, to be quite honest, even if you don't have a weak plan with enthusiasm, is going to be a great detailed plan that never has action or any consistency to it. And so folks out there, if you're that person and you need that partner to see that in you, or I would highly recommend that you share your goals, share why, state the why with your partner and put in action. Let them see each day, hey, I'm going to put 2 hours, 3 hours a day, or I'm going to put this in. And if they see you doing that, being consistent, regardless of the successes or failures in between that time, it is really, really going to be hard for them not to back you or support you.
Yeah.
And then y'all like rocket fuel, and y'all are taking off. I highly recommend that, folks. That's cool.
And I would say, and I don't want to turn this into a relationship conversation.
This is what it is. This is what it's about, really.
That's half of it.
But the reality too, we were talking with a group last week or 2 weeks ago about real estate. And we made the point very early in the conversation to say that we don't come from abundant monetary worldly wealth, right? Neither one of us as individuals, neither one of us together. We come from a wealth of love. We come from a wealth of support. We come from a wealth of strong family structure. We come from a wealth of pioneers. She mentioned her family, her mom and dad being, first generation immigrants. My parents were entrepreneurs growing up. And those are the things we shared in common. The other thing we shared in common that we had to sit down and talk about and agree on and really think through is the fact that wealth building is something that we don't have a clean blueprint from. This wasn't a gift that was given to us. However, it's up to us to figure out what that means to us and what that journey looks like. Having that and we didn't talk about real estate as the solo means to get there, but knowing that was something that we both wanted for our future, for our family, is really what made the real estate conversation organically come together as our vehicle. Yeah. Right. I mean, so I really, to your point, I really think having those very fundamental conversations and the basis for a relationship to say, hey, what's our long-term goal? Understanding where we're starting today, where we want to end up, and figuring out how to fill those gaps is critical. That's what works for us. Yeah.
Wow. So you sound like you all have gotten very solid on the why, and the how just happens to be real estate or whatever vehicle it is.
Right.
The why, and you already have this strong structure of wealth of spirit and the other things that you mentioned. And I think it was awesome that you brought up that, hey, like a lot of us, I mean, we just put it out there, especially if you're, a Black person or other person who has like historically challenging, systems of, oppression just literally in front of us. It not knowing what you don't know, it can be challenging. But but I also love that, like, we're in the information age and everything's accessible to us. And
exactly.
Yeah, so I think that's cool. And I would love to turn the page a little bit and dig a little deeper into short-term rentals. So if you're the numbers lady right there, or both of you all, what makes a good short-term rental? Like if I'm coming in new and I'm like, hey, I want to do this Airbnb stuff, what should I be looking for to to know, hey, this might be something that works?
I would say obviously location is going to be your number one factor. There's a ton of resources out there. There's a website called AirDNA that is, yeah, it's a great tool to help you narrow down your focus on a geography. So you can go to the zip code level, search a zip code in that website, and it'll pull up Airbnbs of similar size to what you're looking at, what their occupancy rate is, how much money they're bringing in every month. It shares all that data with you. So it's a huge repository that you can use to help you when you're narrowing down that location. I think the second thing I'd say is really understanding your finances. Airbnbs can get expensive if you're not careful when you're creating your budget. You have to think about constantly replacing certain things. You're constantly replacing your soap, obviously, your cleaning supplies, you're constantly replacing toilet paper, you provide water, those kind of things. But then there's also you're paying for your cleaner or whoever cleans your space. That's another cost that you don't always thinking about. And then the difference between short-term rentals and long-term rentals is that constant churn may require a different level of, that stash of money that you keep and you budget for incidentals may need to be a little bit higher for an Airbnb, just because there's going to be other stuff like somebody ruining the sheets or someone breaking the couch, things like that you may not be constantly thinking about, that we've just learned throughout the years that have to be built into your business case for it.
Okay.
And then I think the last thing is really knowing who do you want renting your space, because that's going to help you determine what size of space you purchase, what the location, what neighborhood it's going to be on, how you advertise it, who you accept and reject. It's going to frame a lot of things. For us, we've really enjoyed having smaller spaces. We have the studio in the garage. We have another studio that's in an apartment in Uptown Charlotte. And those have worked for us because you're not getting the party crowd. You're getting folks we get folks in the middle of the week, Monday, or random Monday night, Tuesday night, coming in. They have a layover, or they're just driving up from Florida to New York and need a place to crash. So it keeps our spaces a little bit, what's the right word to say it? It's a safer bet for us.
Gotcha.
Not having the huge,
pretty predictable.
not having those huge Airbnbs. The larger Airbnbs can be very lucrative, but you run the risk of having people throw parties and the damages that may come of that.
Location.
Yes.
Think about those expenses like the turnover, and I didn't even think about they're not amenities, but the little, toiletries, all that different type of stuff that has to constantly be. Then I keep hearing this theme, thinking about your audience, thinking whether it's the vision or the audience, thinking from the end, who are you trying to serve, or what dream are you trying to serve? That's pretty cool. Well, are there any tips you all can give folks if they're like, well, actually, how do you all find properties that you buy? How do you find your leads or your properties that you're setting up in short term?
Yeah, so there's a couple things I would say that are the tenants we use, or the checklist that we use for an Airbnb property.
Oh, you have a checklist.
You mentioned location, Courtney, as one. Location is definitely top of the list for us. We prefer local, meaning that if we can get in our car and drive for 10 minutes or less to get to the property, that's ideal for us. We also have a wonderful realtor that helps us. She knows our strategy. She's been with us for several years. She knows kind of the sweet spot for us. So she's really good at finding us deals. I'm always perusing Zillow and realtor.com, looking for properties that fit the profile that my wife just described. And I also think that we've learned a lot by networking. So property managers, folks who do Airbnb cleanings, people who want to get into the business but don't necessarily have the time or the energy to spend on learning it through and through, can always be good sources of properties that are either on the market or soon to be on the market. And those are the ones we prefer, actually. If someone can bring us a deal or a soon to be deal that we're not having to get in the crowd and compete for. Those are ideal properties for us. So we love to network and find properties that way.
Hey, there it is. So you're hearing networking, you're hearing relationships with realtors. I hear a lot of, I mean, don't be quiet, folks. Don't be that quiet. I mean, unless it's just your style. But if you're trying to like really put it out there, closed mouths don't get fed. And so this,
Exactly.
I guess all of life is about like communication, relationships. But let me shout out real quick the wholesale queen. Sheena Mullins is up here. We talk about relationships and networking. I see her in the chat. What's up, Sheena Mullins? She is the wholesale queen out of South Carolina, close to you all, actually.
Nice.
Yeah.
You all
Let's
might
talk.
connect because she is an ace at finding deals and she helps other people, just like you all help people. She helps people figure out how do you find deals and either wholesale them, assign them, or keep them for yourself. So she may be able to find some of your short-term rentals for yourself or for the folks that you all coach. And matter of fact, that was a sort of smooth segue into you all giving back. So tell me more about this coaching and this helping folks like me and others who don't have a short-term rental. Tell us more about that. What does that look? Tell us about Dream, Buy, Multiply. What is that?
You want me to think? Okay. Well, I think throughout our journey and as we've expanded outside of just our short-term rentals, gone into long-term rental space, into the smaller multifamily space, we've really come to, I guess, notice the interest from folks, and really the lack of awareness, specifically with, our friends, our family, people who look like us. It's not taught, it's not common conversation. And so it's very important for us to be able to grow as a community and help rely, on each other, help other people be able to rely on us and build and grow together. It's no fun growing alone. And we want to be able to be a resource for folks. So we decided to start Dream by Multiplier really just to help build a community, build some education on whoever wants to listen, whoever wants to join. We've built a little bit of experience in short-term rentals, a little bit of experience in multifamily. So we want to share and we want to be a resource for folks.
Yeah. And the thing that I'll piggyback on that Yamira just mentioned is the fact that, a lot of what makes real estate a lucrative vehicle for wealth building, for income, et cetera, is the community that is built around it, right? Historically, we haven't been a part of those communities, as a people. And so we love the thought and concept of, hey, we are experts, so to speak, in this space. Let's create community around it and help other people gain confidence and comfort and the skill set to get in as well. Everything that we've experienced so far has been engineered from some type of social connection. And so the easier that we can make that experience and that roadmap for others, the more likely we feel that our business is going to continue to grow. You never know what people have to bring to the table. We ideally want to help people who don't want to be hands-on, who say, listen, I have some funds, I have some dollars I want to invest, I want to deploy, but I don't have the time or the interest to be hands-on and be, the person in the trenches doing the work. That's a dream partner for us, right? Someone that someone that has something that we need, which is capital, which is, funds, et cetera. It doesn't require us to dip into our own, so to speak, funds to propel our business. And so we believe that at the root of Dream by Multiply is this opportunity to connect, create community, build partnerships, and really fuel our business by helping people fuel theirs. And that's our goal, that's our outlook, and that's why we got into the game.
That's a beautiful thing. I think it's so powerful and important I come from a teaching background, and one of the best ways I learn something is by having to teach it, and I think it's so smart, Nick, that you're talking about community and building community, because that is going to be the folks that it's going to be the folks that you're going to be able to fuel their dreams, and they'll be able to provide the fuel for perhaps other opportunities for you all in the future. And I highly recommend anyone out there, you don't have to have, the experience that they have, or even with very little experience, you can still position yourself in a space to be a, I won't say a thought expert, but to be in the conversation. So if you're just starting out as a wholesaler or an investor or whatever, you can start a meetup. There's nothing stopping you from starting a Facebook community. I mean, hell, this is what Life and Transition Experts about. I'm trying to capitalize on learning from other folks. And as they come onto my platform, I mean, just to be quite honest, I'm going to get some of that, I guess, either recognition or that energy, because I'm creating the space for value to be shared. And if you give, you're going to receive. If you receive, you're going to be able to give. You got to be able to do both. So I love that you all are following universal laws, creating community, giving. And say, if you want to make $1 million, go give $1 million in value. You want to be a friend, go be friendly. You want love, you got to be attract that. So, I get excited about this stuff. This is great stuff. Oh, I got to shout out to my mama too. One of my biggest fans. Mama's up here too. She is also the inbound call manager for my company. So we're trying to keep it in the family here too.
Amazing.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
So great.
Yeah. And but how would people, if they, I'm going to put it in the show notes a little later as well, but actually I'm going to ask how people can contact you. I'll ask you now and then a little bit later, but how can people reach out to you if they want to take advantage of your coaching and your mentoring for short-term rentals?
Yeah, so two primary ways. The first one is Instagram. That's where we do most of our interaction, most of our content, which, Courtney, we need your expertise, man. Talk about community. We need to learn from you how you create content and generate all that energy and attraction around what you're doing. You do an amazing job, brother. Just want to mention that for sure. But Instagram, dream.by.multiply is our Instagram handle. Also our website, www.dreambyMultiply.com. We have a section on there where you can
contact us,
generate an outreach, etc. And we love just to get on the phone and have real, genuine, deep conversations about, again, how we can help folks meet and accomplish their goals and dreams, and vice versa. So those are the primary ways, I would say.
Dream.by.multiply on Instagram.
Yes.
And
www.dreambymultiply.com.
Dreambymultiply.com. Awesome. We'll put them in the show notes. I love saying that. I ain't gonna lie, because I consume podcasts so much, and I've always wanted to have a podcast, and so it's exciting to be able to say we'll put it in the show notes. So I'm thinking I was official over this bad.
Sounds so natural. You sound like a natural.
Hey, well, I got the gift of gab, so so that's one thing I need to learn to be quiet. So tell me though, what trends do you all see, or do you see any trends coming up for short-term rentals in the near future?
So I'll say we've noticed a little bit of a change, I guess, in the expectations of guests and of clientele. I think, the boom of social media has really changed people's travel expectations, and luxury travel for folks is starting to become the expectation, regardless of whether or not folks have a luxury budget. So that's something that I think has been a bit of a challenge. Even if you see in the Airbnb commercials, the properties that they post on their commercials are usually high luxury, when in reality the company started, and probably most Airbnbs on the site are folks' homes. They're tiny little spaces that they've really personalized, put a lot of love into, and they aren't meant to be these high luxury vacation homes. And so I think finding that sweet spot where you're not going broke trying to be a luxury space, while also still meeting the expectations of a high quality, clean, modern looking environment. I think that's something that people are going to have to deal with in the future. And it's going to continue to be a challenge as Instagram travel becomes so popular and everyone wants to post where they stay. Finding that balance is going to continue to be a challenge, I think, for Airbnb hosts.
I say another big trend is the fact that a lot of commercial and corporate investors are getting in the game.
Oh yes.
So part of what we've come to find out is causing some of the housing crisis in some of the larger cities is a lot of these larger companies and leasing entities are using apartments as Airbnbs because they make more money. And they keep their vacancies very, very, very low. So we see that is a trend that's moving very quickly. The other one is this concept of rental arbitrage, right? Which is a similar concept as I just mentioned, but folks like us can go and take out a lease on 30 different apartments. Apartments, for the most part, don't go on your credit, so to speak. So what's going to stop, the 10 different leasing agents and companies you might be leasing from knowing that you're doing business with so many other people? They really don't know. So rental arbitrage is that concept where you own the lease, you put it on Airbnb and manage it as if you own the property. But obviously you don't. It comes with a different level of risk, but something a lot of people have found a lot of success with, to be honest with you. We're not into it, but it's definitely trending out. It's a really low risk, low market entry barrier way to get in. The last thing I'll mention is this concept of, I lost my train of thought.
Rental arbitrage.
We talked about this trends. Wow, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, those are the big ones. The other one will come back to me at some point.
Well, I think that's cool to understand too, because it again goes back to understanding your audience. And some people may approach Airbnb and assume I got to have these luxury spaces when you actually can find a niche, or even rubber meets the road. This is for folks who, like say, if you're traveling through South Cac and you need to make it all the way up through, there might need a spot to stay. So it doesn't have to necessarily be these big things, but know what you're looking at. And rental arbitrage is a very cool and interesting strategy that as Nick was mentioning, as Sheena was shouting out, yes, rental arbitrage in the comment section over here. And yeah, I do hear a lot of people appreciating it because it is low risk, because it's not your credit, it's not your property. If you are making sure that you let the leaser or your owner understand and know, and you're not facing any challenges there, then it might be a great thing for you. But ownership sounds like something that you all lean more towards. Why do you feel like you lean more towards ownership?
I think for us, we're really focused on the wealth building. We're fortunate to both have jobs that we work from home. That gives us some flexibility of where we can be during the day. And so cash flow is not as critical right now. That if you're into the rental arbitrage, that's going to give you the cash flow immediately, because you're not having to worry about those, finding the down payment for a mortgage and all of that. You're just focused on your lease amount and your whatever revenue you bring in. So for us, we're not as focused on cash flow today. We're going to keep building, and eventually the cash flow will come as we continue to make the deals that we're making. But really, wealth is our goal, and we want something that we can hand down, and equity. We want something that we can hand off, and it's been a good strategy for us to be able to pull the equity out from each of our properties to help us multiply.
Absolutely, dream buy, multiply. Man, I tell you, I've been a wholesaling for the last 2 or 3, I'm not even sure how long, 2 or 3 years, and I've been fortunate enough to wholesale a lot, and that was one of the biggest challenges. I mean, we've had a couple of properties, but you're right. Whether you're wholesaling or rental arbitrage, if you're going in, you can make a lot of money in real estate.
Yes,
and that's awesome. Uncle Sam's gonna come for that money, and it's real easy to spend money. I'm noticing. And so if you don't have some type of asset or wealth generating vehicle like a property, then at the end of the day, you're going to turn around and you may find that, hey, I'm still scrapping and scrambling. So it sounds great that you all have that folks. She just said she's my kind of girl. Yamira, what you said, first generation, where's your family from?
My parents are both from Dominican Republic.
Oh, okay, Dominican Republic. I did actually when I go to North upstate in New York, I'm on the northern part of the island. They always like so folks who I assume are from Dominican Republic always start talking.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm sorry. That's cool. That is cool. So what I would love to hear from you all. What I know I'm looking at your time and all. I'm not gonna hold you too long, but what are some of the funniest or strangest or incidents that you all have had occur? Start shaking the head since you've been.
We got stories.
property owners.
I would, so I would say the strangest one for me, it's actually a one we've seen quite frequently. The adult film industry has identified Airbnbs as a very low cost item on the expense sheet when it comes to producing
this
films.
is our theory. This is our theory. We don't work in the adult film industry, so we don't know what actually happens.
Right.
Hey, this might be I think I'm gonna have a clickbait. That might be the title of this. Adult films, Airbnbs, short-term rentals. Now, go ahead.
I tell people, if you happen to see one of our properties on the site, let us know, just so we can,
get some money from it.
Right. We need our royalties. But yeah, we've seen on several occasions, we've had people show up with a film crew, with audio AV equipment, and they
multiple men and women coming in and out.
And they always make it clear and say that we don't intend on staying the night, for whatever reason. That's just part of the interaction. And so we've not had any issues from those guests, so to speak. But that's definitely the one that sticks out in my mind.
Yeah.
What's that micro? That's that 24-hour kills everything.
Microban.
Microban.
That in stock.
Dang. Oh man, I really might have to use that as a title. That might be misleading, but no. Wow.
You got one?
I mean, there's so many. It's so funny. You just get to see. Not everyone reads directions the same way. Not everyone.
Right there. Oh my God! Yeah. I said the same thing over and over. Yeah.
People are interesting and they're funny, and
we had a multi-generational family of women come to stay once. They were from rural Georgia. I can't remember the name of the town, but it was a daughter, a mom, and a grandmother. And from the first, I would say 5 to 10 minutes after they checked in, they were texting, calling, complaining, posting stuff in the Airbnb chat about how disgusting the place was. And this was early in the game, so it still had that new kind of wood and drywall smell to it. So we're like, how is the place disgusting? So we trying to be really diligent and present hosts. We go up and we ask, can you point out
what's going on? We're worried that our cleaner didn't do the job right.
It still smelled like Fabuloso. That's how recent it had been cleaned. And
they pointed at our artificial plant in the corner and said, look at all the dust on that artificial plant.
Wow.
And it was like not visible to the eye. You had to go up and literally wet your finger
on it.
Yeah,
they try to do the Hampton Inn 100% guarantee, or you get the money back. You're like, I'm gonna complain about something. I'm gonna find something. So is that now your normal? Oh my bad, I cut you off there.
No, I was gonna say you just have people like that, and we've had close to 700 guests now, so we can kind of get a sense of the vibe people are coming with. Yeah. And if we feel like people are going to be too much work, we typically decline them, to be honest.
Yeah.
So,
I have a couple of things here. One, I really want to connect you all with Sheena, because she's that just put some gems in here that you all may want to consider. She said something up, maybe put a mandatory commercial photography clause in your lease or your contract. I'll let you all connect.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah, that is.
Way for you all to actually have to get paid through that throughout.
That's a really good idea. I'm gonna write that down.
Actually. Yeah. So I'll connect you all afterwards. She's an awesome,
definitely
big heart and just very smart. But what was it? I was going with this. I think I wanted to ask if there were like any. Well, no. Yeah, that's where I was going. So there are couple of things that I was thinking about when the advantages or disadvantages of a short-term rental versus a long-term rental. And one thing that I've heard, and I would love you to speak on, is that you were talking about, Yamira was talking about the constant turnover, which I mean, that's what it does, right? You turn over, somebody moves in, moves out. And what I found or heard from folks who do this work, and actually I spent about a year being I managed the Airbnb next to me for an event. I just wanted to learn more about it and all that stuff. So it was, but that the actual constant turnover, the constant cleaning, the constant eye on the property actually makes sure that the property's in good shape, as opposed to having, you know, someone in there and then you don't see the property again for another year or so, or when they allow you in, or when you have.
Yeah.
So, well, can you speak to that? Or if I mean to like lead it so much, but are there something I'm not seeing or am seeing, or you could speak to?
No, I think you're spot on, Courtney. One of the things we talk to our, you know, colleagues and folks we try to help in the business about is that Airbnb is not a hands-off passive business. People assume that for some reason. Like, we've been shocked at how many people just think it's a plug and play kind of exchange where you get a property, you throw it up and you're good. And it's the exact opposite. And to your point, having the constant oversight is great, because you can identify things that are falling apart before they become disastrous. It's also very, very, for me, I'm not gonna speak for my wife, it is very, very stress inducing though.
It can be.
There's a couch leg that's been broken. Okay, $350 couch. Didn't expect to spend that today, but here we go, right? There's a shower head that won't stop dripping. Oh man, that's not something you can just set and let, you know, linger for days or for weeks.
Yeah, well, water's life, but water can cause so much damage.
Right. I mean, so there are things like that that the Airbnb model just exposes you to, that you just have to get a level of comfort around it. That's been a struggle for me, if I'm being honest. It's something I constantly think about and I'm haunted by to some degree based on some of the experiences that we've had. But.
Yeah, I think because, you know, what you said about the having a long-term tenant in there, they really make it their home. So there's going to be a lot to clean and update when they leave. But short-term rentals, that's not their home. So people do things they would not normally do in their homes in a short-term rental because they think
I'm gone
it's going to be fine.
6 hours.
Like, who cares? It's going to be fine. You know, it feels like sometimes some guests treat it like we have the Hilton name behind us and have all this money over there.
The Hilton crew.
So that can be a challenge. And again, it goes back to making sure you're advertising to the guests you want and you're screening for the guests you want, that they're going to treat your space a little bit better. But that constant churn means you're at the risk of people who don't care about your space, and they'll treat it in a way that you know, it doesn't matter to them because they're just there for a few hours. So there's risks and positives for both.
Well, one of the other positives people seem to like is the difference in cash flow. I know you all, every market's different, but in Charlotte, North Carolina, can you speak to what would you say is like for, you know, 3-bed, 2-bath, or 4-bed, what's the rental comps for long-term compared to what you all are seeing as far as gross and net cash each month?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So Charlotte is one of the few markets, I would say, in the country that is very resilient, right? So a lot of the trends that the real estate world experiences together, Charlotte kind of stands out. I think the banking industry has a lot to do with that. It's a very easy to use and access airport hub for a lot of the surrounding cities and states. And there's a very young community and population in Charlotte. I think it was top 3 in terms of growth over the last decade. And so I think that has really generated a lot of, like I said, resiliency for the marketplace. But for us, just using very broad numbers, our mortgage for the condo is, and this is 500 square feet studio space. Our mortgage at the moment is
$800 something.
$850, let's say.
Plus the HOA.
Right.
Plus another 200 in HOA. So like $1,000.
Say $1,000. Our gross for the Airbnb on a good month is around $4,000 to $4,200. Okay. So very good numbers there, right? If we were to rent that place, and we did rent it actually for a year before it went on Airbnb, and it was
we charged $12.50, I think, for the.
Yeah. So
So
we
it was barely
Woo, that's razor thin,
Barely
boss. Woo, yeah.
covering
Damn.
expenses there.
Don't let a light bulb go out. Like
we were
we were
skin thin on our margins.
Yeah.
So Airbnb economically was a much better move and pivot for us. So.
Definitely.
100 square feet. Oh man, that's what I'm talking about. All right, so
Yeah.
that's, you can imagine. I would imagine that the numbers may go up slightly if the square foot's larger, or down if square foot's lower, or does that?
Yeah.
Play? That's cool. That is awesome. Well, my goodness, you guys are giving me so much of your time. I so appreciate it. I am going to have one really last question for both of you all. Well, I have two questions. One, what is for both of you? What's a book or source of inspiration that you have shared the most with folks who are trying to get their either mindset right or business mind right when it comes to approaching entrepreneurship in general and investing?
Yeah, I'll start.
Yeah.
So, Courtney, you mentioned at the beginning of the conversation that, you and I share some things in common. I think one thing that we share in common and talk about a lot is the concept of mindset. That for me has been the number one, I guess, pillar in my personal journey in real estate, and just having the faith and belief that my thoughts and the things that I put out in the universe, I control, for one, but also can and do dictate destiny. Nothing is, we are not creatures of a finite templated, endpoint. We can create whatever beautiful and miraculous journeys we want for ourselves. And so along the way, I've picked up a lot of learnings from three particular, I'm gonna call them philosophers, if I can, that I spend a lot of time listening to and learning from. That's Neville Goddard, and I gotta thank you, Courtney, for putting me.
Never got it. The feeling of the wish fulfilled.
That's right, putting me on the Neville, and the 27 hours worth of content that audiobook I downloaded and put me onto.
That book is awesome. His work is awesome.
That's been great. I would say Joe Dispenza. He has two books that I love, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself and You Are the Placebo.
Oh, wow.
And then another person, God rest his soul, Bob Proctor, who
digital.
Yeah, man. He's still, even though he left this earth in the physical form last year, his teachings are really still keeping a lot of the concepts and a lot of the energy that he's put out in the universe alive to this day, man. I just can't get enough of those three wisdom philosophers, man. That really changed my life.
Make me go another hour on everyone you said. Joe Dispenza has a great book called Becoming Supernatural that our chapter brother and friend Rashawn Miller put us on to, or put me onto, and that's been amazing. But yeah, I love Bob Proctor. He just modeled how to live and learn and grow and share. And that was amazing. Yamira, how about you?
For me, I think a lot of the resources I've just been into is more of technical, tactical books. Yes. So, reading about the Burr method, reading about investing in multifamily properties, that's been more of my focus now, as I'm trying to continue to build my toolkit. As we continue to expand, that's really been my focus for right now.
Well, dig it. Help us break it down, because hopefully there's people coming in and new to this and may have not heard of the Burr method. Can you just real quick, what's the Burr method?
Yeah, so the Burr method is a method of kind of purchasing real estate properties, taking out the equity, and then doing it again. So it's buy, rehab, refinance, rent. No, buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. I think that's what it all stands for. Because
all the R's, exactly.
Yeah.
It's 4 R's.
A lot of R's. But basically, you're buying your property, you're getting, you're rehabbing it to build that immediate equity. You rent it out, you refinance that property after the work you put in and money you put in has increased that value in the property. You take that equity out through the refinance process, cash out refi, and then you use it to buy something else, and you just keep repeating. I think that's one of the easiest ways to multiply your real estate portfolio.
Almost infinite return depending on how you acquire at the beginning, but that's a great strategy. You know, a nugget that was shared with me that's in the Burr method that I don't hear talked about as much. It doesn't fit the acronym because it's not an R, but when you buy the property, and you usually, to make the Burr method work, folks, the property has to be bought at such a, I mean, you make your money on the buy anyways, but buying it at a deep discount, and quite often buying a deep discount means it does need some repair or some value
Right.
you can add to it. But when you are adding that value, go ahead and start, and I'm not saying you aren't doing this, I'm talking to folks out there, go ahead and somehow put an advertisement out for it, put it on Zillow or Redfin or something to advertise that you're looking for someone to rent it or to lease it out. And then go and, do the rent and refi and all, because you can actually, now I'm not tax expert or CPA or anything like that. don't sue me again, folks. But from my understanding, as soon as you start advertising it, it goes from being you can count your losses as from the rental, because it's technically a rental now. So even if you are still putting the boards together, put the toilets up, if you start advertising, you can show proof that in that calendar year that it's being advertised as a rental, you can write off a lot of those expenses that you get from rehabbing it. But definitely, folks, check with
that's a good nugget.
Love that.
Yeah.
Well, there it is. And yes, oh man, this is so exciting, folks. What is one last, not one last, but the greatest lesson one of the greatest lessons that you learned? And I'll leave you with that before we get your tags and get you all out of here. What's one of the greatest lessons that you learned on this journey, together or on your own?
I guess for me is, don't let fear stop you from going out there and getting in the game. That was something that I, as I spoke to earlier, was my hesitation, the fear of failure. If you don't jump in, you're never going to see the benefits. And we've talked about this a lot in the past, is that we base our fear off of what we stand to lose instead of thinking about what we stand to gain and using that as our frame of mind. And so that's probably been the biggest lesson for me personally in this journey.
I got to agree with that. I think there's a quote, and Courtney, you may know who it comes from, but it talks about the concept of fear. We fear things only because we can feel, see, touch, and understand what we stand to lose. But what if we could touch, see, feel, and experience what we stand to gain? Will we have fear, And I think once we realize that kind of reversing of our mindset to say, yeah, we fear this down payment that this real estate property would take, because we know if we don't do well and we don't generate the type of return, then we've lost that money. But what would it look like if we do extremely well? And that property is what turns into our third and fourth property beyond that. And just having that kind of growth mindset and getting over that concept of fear has really been our fuel. So I have to agree with you.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. You're a smart person for agreeing. And it makes so much sense, because definitely, particularly hearing the philosophers that you spoke of and just the way you all operate, what you focus on is what you will get. If you're focusing on trying to get out of debt, you're going to acquire more debt. But if you're focused on gaining wealth, you're going to gain wealth. You got to be it to become it. You have to create the mold first and see it. So that's so beautiful that you're like touching, feeling, and seeing what it feels like to already be successful. And then you attract. That's beautiful stuff. Man, I appreciate you all. Can y'all, so it's at dream.by.multiply on Instagram and www.dreambymultiply.com.
Yeah.
Yamira Sullivan, Nicholas Sullivan, y'all have been awesome. Folks out there, wherever you listen to this, I would love a like, a subscribe, a listen, a rotation, feedback, whatever it is, it helps us grow. If you are an investor or wholesaler or entrepreneur, I would love for you also to go check out doreideals.com. I have a ton of free resources there. I can have a calendar link. I would love to connect and chat with you all as well. If you're looking for short-term rental help or support, definitely go to dream.by.multiply or at dream.by.multiply on Instagram and the www.dreambymultiply.com. Love to check you out. I can't wait to connect you all with Sheena and some other folks too. Y'all are so cool.
Yes, definitely.
That's right.
And
likewise.
Awesome. I'm gonna sign off to folks as I always do, saying rising tides, it lifts all sails.